Have you ever heard of Alfred Beilhartz? A 4-year-old little boy who went on a camping trip to never be seen again. Alfred Beilhartz had gone on a camping trip with his parents and 10 of his siblings to Rocky Mountain National Park. Now, I've actually found conflicting stories on exactly what took place on that day, but several sources like Missing 411, Wikipedia, and the Cherry Project, and many more state that on July 2nd, 1938, the family was going to Estes Park and was hiking along a trail next to a creek by the name of Roaring River at approximately 8 a.m. And their son, Alfred Edward Beilhartz, was walking at the end of the line formed by their family, and eventually the family realized that he had gone missing. The boy had somehow fell behind and was absolutely nowhere to be found. Now, I've also found a source from a book called Death, Despair, and Second Chances in Rocky Mountain National Park by Joseph R. Evans. Now, this book states that on July 2nd, 1938, that Alfred had gone with his father down to the river to bathe. 2 other men had gone along with them named Orrin Bronson and Walter Hanson, who were both supposed to be members of the Beilhartz party, yet they had went about 500 feet, 150 meters upstream to bathe. Well, after Alfred and his father finished bathing, they traveled that 500 feet upstream to the other 2 men. Then Alfred's father returned back to camp, and Alfred ended up following the 2 men back to camp. But when the 2 men arrived back to camp, they realized that the boy had gone missing and was no longer following them. Then at this point is where the 2 stories start to merge back together, and I will have, as always, I will have the sources for all of this down in the description below. After Alfred was realized to be missing, the family started to frantically search for him and turned up nothing. So they quickly went and contacted the Rangers and told them what had happened. A full-blown search emerged within 45 minutes. The Rangers were under the assumption that perhaps the boy had fallen into the nearby river and drowned, so they decided to dam off the river. This dam consisted of fence lining with barbed wire. There's just absolutely no way his body could have drifted downstream without this dam catching it. And they also decided to drag the river to look for him in case he'd gotten stuck on any rocks or anything of that nature. After 5 days of searching the river, they turned up nothing to indicate where he was. So they gave up searching the river and started to search the woods. His parents told the Rangers that they were convinced that Alfred would not just wander off on his own. They were convinced that he had been abducted. They just were not convinced that he had fallen into the river and drowned. So the Rangers decided to call in some bloodhounds from the nearby Colorado State Penitentiary. Now, according to David Pilatus, the author of the books Missing 411, and a long-time officer who has conducted and been a part of many of these searches. They say that the dogs were able to follow a scent from Alfred about 500 feet uphill from where his parents had been when he vanished. Now, this is peculiar for a couple of reasons. For one, most people, when they get lost, they tend to wander downhill, not up, especially children. Going uphill can be much harder than going downhill. Not only that, but in the direction that the family had been going, they would have been heading uphill themselves. They would have been heading uphill themselves. And for the boy to go uphill didn't make sense because he was behind the family. He would have had to somehow gone around the family to go uphill, but this is where the dogs ended up finding a trail to. The Rangers ended up actually bringing in a second set of dogs. Those dogs followed the same trail uphill 500 feet until they met a fork in the trail where they laid down and just gave up. The search was eventually called off after 10 days, just 10 short days of searching for this child. Now, let's get into some of the witness accounts. There was a few. On July 3rd, William J. Ells and his wife were also hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park with absolutely no idea that there was a missing child in the area. They'd made it quite far up the Ode Falls River Road when they decided to stop and take a rest. While resting, they decided to look up and enjoy the view of Mount Chapman, only to spot a young boy sitting on a rock in a part of the mountainside known as the Devil's Nest, and the Devil's Nest for good reason. This spot was about 6 miles away from where Alfred had disappeared, and at a very high and treacherous elevation. Mr. Ells expressed disbelief that any child could get up to that sort of height without any sort of assistance. But he said the child walked out, looked over the edge, cried out, and then walked away. Well, David Pilates says it was as if he was jerked back out of view. And keep in mind, David Pilates has actually pulled the official records of these cases, traveled to these towns, and actually tried to talk to any living witnesses and testimonies from any of the rangers and such that worked on these cases. And he says he was told it looked more like the child was jerked away and therefore screamed out. But Wikipedia simply asserts that he just walked out of sight. The couple decided to retreat to the parking lot and headed on home. When they made it home and found out about the disappearance of the little boy and saw his picture in the newspaper, they realized that this was the boy they had seen in the paper. So they immediately headed back up to the ranger station and informed them on what they had seen. It was difficult for the rangers to believe their story because they said that even with rope and climbing gear, the rangers would have a tough time making it up that peak without help. And they don't see how this little boy could have made it up that peak by himself. They called it totally impossible. They did eventually end up sending a group of 150 men to search the Devil's Nest, but came back empty-handed. The next development in this case came from the FBI when they said that they would be testing a bandage found in an abandoned cabin upon the assistance of the parents who kept claiming their child had been kidnapped. Apparently, the boy had some sort of blister on his toe or foot at the time of disappearance, and his mother had bandaged it up with the sort of material found in the abandoned cabin. Now, I could not find anything in any of the resources about how those results came back, so I'm guessing, since that's not public information, that either it came back negative to be from him, or at times the police do tend to hold back certain pieces of information to help confirm the stories of later information that they receive in their cases. So either way, we do not know if that was ever confirmed to be Alfred's. Now, on the same day that the FBI announced this, there was a woman that was only called in documents Miss C.A. Lynch, and she was from Nebraska, and she claimed to see the boy walking with a mysterious man while riding with her husband in a car. Now, this was supposed to have happened on a highway on her way to her brother-in-law's house, who was known as W.B. Lynch. And upon arriving at the brother-in-law's house, she told her brother-in-law what had happened. And he actually reached out to an officer named Detective Sergeant Fred Renovati. He contacted him 2 days later on his sister-in-law's behalf, but nothing ever came of this supposed sighting. Okay, now at this point, Alfred Beilhartz had been missing for approximately 5 months, when in November, his father received a ransom note ordering him to leave $500 in a tin can 1 block away from the Beilhartz home within 24 hours. And also creepily citing that the boy doesn't take to us. So what the note said was, the boy doesn't take to us. However, by the 29th of that month, the police were fairly sure that this was all just a hoax, and actually had 2 people in custody questioning them over the hoaxed ransom note. They were being held for trying to extort money from the family, but they were never named and never charged, and this is where the trail actually grows cold. Alfred Beilhartz was a white male, 4 years old at the time of his disappearance in 1938. He had blonde hair. His eye color is unknown to the Charlie Project. If you don't know what the Charlie Project is, it's a site for missing people. This case has grown cold and is no longer open, and Alfred Beilhartz is assumed dead. There is also no information about an investigation service for you to contact if you do happen to have any information on Alfred. Cases like this really get to me. They are just so sad. They really get to me. Cases like this are just so old that most of the people involved have already passed away. Even Alfred himself would be so old that it would be likely that if he had been kidnapped and raised by someone, he may already have passed away. And it's just so sad to me that the people in his life, his mom, his dad, his 10 siblings, that all of them could have passed away without ever knowing what happened to Alfred. That part just gets to me. Okay, but yeah. Now, I would like to know what you think about this peculiar occurrence down below. What do you think happened to Alfred? Do you think he made it out okay? Do you think he was kidnapped? What do you think actually happened to him? Have you ever heard of this case or Alfred? Let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to do this part after telling such a sad story sometimes. Yeah, but let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. And while you're down there, my camera cut off. Don't forget, while you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hit that little bell button so you always know when I upload. Make sure you hit the all notifications, or you know, you're not gonna know when I upload. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled for all things peculiar. Do 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 do. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I know that ending part was kind of crap, but I have to advertise myself there at the end, and it's kind of really hard to after some of these missing people stories, because they really, truly, truly get to me. Yeah, so yeah. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.